book lovers, welcome to Authors Bookstores presented by A Mighty Blaze. My name is Kimberly Hensle Lowrance and I am your host. For nearly 100 episodes, I have traveled the United States, Canada, and Great Britain with my partner in crime, Joe Moldover, to support independent bookstores and the authors who love them. We bring to you a conversation between those authors and those booksellers to shine a light on storytelling, creativity, and the small businesses that enrich our community. Today's episode is a very special one for me because not only do I get to welcome a friend, but I get to welcome a new friend and a bookstore I have loved for, well, such a long time that if I tell you, I will date myself. Let's just say I have loved this bookstore since the last century. So, welcome to our guests, author Rachel Barenbaum and bookseller Courtney Flynn. Dun, 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 dun.
Yay! Hey, hello!
Rachel, I love that you're wearing sequins. This is like your signature.
I love sequins. If only we could wear them every day.
You can. Why not?
You're right.
I'm wearing, as I mentioned, showed off in the green room, I am wearing my Trident Booksellers t-shirt. And that is because today we are here with Trident Booksellers. Courtney is a co-owner of the store. And I'm just so excited both of you are here. So let me tell our audience a little bit about both of you. So Rachel, dun, 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 is the author of two novels, which I have both right here. Wonderful books. Her first book is A Bend in the Stars, which which was a New York Times summer reading selection and a Barnes & Noble Discover Great New Writers selection. It was also a Boston Globe bestseller. And her brand new book, Atomic Anna, just came out last week. I clearly need lessons in the Vanna White part of the show. And this book is fantastic. I can't wait to talk about it. Rachel is a prolific writer and reviewer. Her work has appeared in the LA Review of Books, the Tel Aviv Review of Books, Lit Hub, and Dead Darlings. She's an honorary research associate at the Hadassah Brandeis Institute at Brandeis University, and she's a graduate of Grub Street's Novel Incubator. She's also part of A Mighty Blaze. She's the founder of the Debut Spotlight, and she's the debut editor. You can catch her show. We'll put a link below and you can catch her show where she interviews debut authors. She lives in the Boston area. And so, again, this fabulous book with this wonderful cover. Okay, so Courtney Flynn is a co-owner of Trident Booksellers in Boston. She's a second-generation bookseller. Her parents, Bernie and Gail, founded Trident back in 1984. The store is located on Newbury Street in Boston's Back Bay, which is this wonderful destination for tourists, for people who live in Boston, restaurants and shopping. It's sort of the heart of the city. The bookstore includes every book you want to read, books you've never heard about and you will love after you read them, as well as wonderful event selection and a cafe. Again, I first went to Trident very, very long time ago, and it's an institution in the city and just such a wonderful place to spend several hours and many dollars. So welcome, Rachel. Welcome, Courtney.
Hello. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with Courtney and Kimberly today. This is an amazing show already. Thank you.
Rachel, tell us. So when we talked about having you on the show, you immediately wanted to talk with Trident. Was it immediate? Yes. And you were so excited. What is it? What's your connection to the store? Why Trident? Tell us about do you remember the first time you went to Trident?
No, I don't remember the first time because I've been going since the 90s and I love it. And I've just spent so many afternoons there, looking through books, asking for recommendations. There's always an amazing staff who knows the books so well, who can tell you who the local authors are, where to find their books, right? What's just out, what's interesting. Plus you can drink and eat and hang out with friends. I've taken my babies there and hung out for hours. It's just such a fun store. So thank you, Courtney.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I always say there's something for everyone there because we have the restaurant, we have the books, and we have gifts, and we have events, and so people really use the store in so many different ways. Some people come in and they never look at the books. I hate to say it. I mean, but and they just go to the cafe. I know we don't know those people, but then there's people who just go to the bookstore or both, or, so I think, and since it's been there for so long, people have used it in different ways throughout the years and decades and all that. So
I remember going to Trident and my book club would meet there. You know, these are back in the days when we all lived in apartments with like many, many roommates and no private space.
Right.
And so Trident was like a destination for us to sit, pick up new books, talk about the books we were reading, and then eat at your delicious cafe. I mean, it felt, I can still sort of conjure up those feelings of how that space was, and I imagine still is, very welcoming and very much a place where you just felt like lots of different people from different perspectives were all coming together in this place that was safe and was really warm. You talk on your website about this concept of a third place. Can you explain what that is to our audience?
I mean, I think what you said is really what we try to embody, but the third place concept, I'm forgetting who coined it. It wasn't us, but it's basically like you have your home, you have your work, and then you need to balance your life a third place that you can be as comfortable as you are at home and at work. And we feel that we provide that. We hear from people that we provide that. And it's sort of an organic, I mean, I don't think you can force that kind of ambiance or place. A part of it is just, you know, we're just not a place you can kind of be on your own. I mean, I remember years ago, we're in the Globe, like best places to have dinner on your own or be on your own or something. I mean, not to say you can't be with a group or a book club or a friend or whatnot. We see a lot of first dates. We see a lot of, you know, all sorts of meetups and things like that. But I think that concept of being there as yourself and being there in a comfortable way, you know, you can sit there for hours. No one will bother you. I mean, we do get busy, but it's sort of like you can kind of either be in the mix or not, or you can be on your own or kind of be in the vibe of the store. So, and like I said earlier, it's something different for everybody. And I think that's why it resonates as a place people feel comfortable and safe to be. So I can't say it's so intentional how we do it. It just kind of evolved from years of small decisions, I guess.
Small decisions that build up and make a big difference.
Right. Yeah. You never know what kind of things you shift or change or move. Or we added a second floor in 2011 or so, 2012. And, you know, more cafe space, more book space. And that opened up an event space essentially for us on the second floor. So we had some Grub Street events up there, and, you know, it's a new way to use the store. And it's, something for everyone.
Well, I like this idea that you're talking about changing and evolving as the business grows and as time goes by, this sort of adaptability. And I wonder, these past 2 years have been extremely difficult for booksellers. We've talked to so many on the show here about how there were lean months and how some bookstores did not survive.
Yeah.
What did you and the other members of the Trident team take from this past 2 years for the future for the store? Were there any sort of changes you made to the way the store functions that have actually turned out to be a blessing?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of did end up being, I mean, we've come out, it's hard to say we've come out from the other side and full stop, because it kind of, the whole experience really was sort of a wake up call in terms of riding out really stressful, traumatic things and relying on the fact that we are so established in the city and people will come back. And, you know, it was sort of these exterior problems in the world that we couldn't control, and to just let those ride out with the faith that we can stand through them. So that was kind of the biggest like lesson. We also had a fire in 2018. We were closed for 6 months, and it was a similar sort of thing where we were like, will people forget about us? Will we, you know, never have that kind of, So, I mean, that was sort of between those two experiences. I mean, that being said, yes, I mean, we got hit extremely hard by the pandemic, because our market, as you mentioned on the top of the show, is tourists, it's students, a lot of students, and obviously locals too. And the people who work in the area were all not coming to the store. So that was tough. But I would say just all small businesses, unlike larger corporations, are extremely agile and adaptable. And we did all sorts of things with staff, and we had, our servers start being booksellers and our booksellers start doing other things. It was like, we just really changed things up at the, on a day. So that was just adaptability in general was sort of a lesson from that time. And I think generally small businesses and bookstores are good at. So that's, a lot of us survive because of it. But yeah.
The other thing I imagine would be having wonderful books to sell. Like,
of course.
Rachel, I love this book. So dazzled by it. And I am not the only one. The reviews are fantastic. Let me just read a few of them to our audience members who have not yet read Atomic Anna, which you will read it because it's so good. Okay, let's see. Publishers Weekly gave you a starred review and said, "You dare greatly and succeed." I love these reviews. They were so much fun to read. Do you read them, Rachel?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
You do.
All of them. All of them.
Good.
My favorite that I think I've said 17 times since I read the review was the New York Times called the book masterfully plotted, which I want to talk about. Kirkus calls Atomic Anna as ambitious as a Greek tragedy and just as lyrical and unflinching. NPR says that you have created a saga that manages to be both sweeping and riveting, and that this is a multi-dimensional, splendidly crafted novel. These reviews were like, that your prose is as elegant as it is accessible. And that's an important part because a whole thread in this book is about science and advanced math. And it's something that most people probably do not have in their day-to-day vocabulary. And it's presented in such an effective way that I don't know anything about nuclear power. And I felt like, oh, I totally understand what's going on. LA Review, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Success. The LA Review of Books says that your book is propulsive and intimate and surprisingly relevant to these past 2 years when time has so often felt sharp and amorphous all at once, and that the story moves with precision and purpose. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So good. I love those books that you're, as a reader, you're completely invested in the characters. And then you kind of get nervous, like, what is going to happen next? That sort of feeling of almost that you forget that they're fictional people, that you're so connected to them. And I really felt that reading this book. I just felt like these women were so important to me as a person. So congratulations.
Yay. Thank you.
Now, I wanted to talk about the inspiration for this book began with a photo. Do you have it behind you? No, you have other photos of Chernobyl.
Yeah. So I have sort of semi photos. So a big chunk of the book takes place at a cosmic ray station on Mount Aragats in what is now Armenia, which was the Soviet Union. And while I was writing Atomic Anna, I read about this in the New York Times, and then subsequently in National Geographic and The Guardian. And this is like a real place. So this is a real computer that is actually at a real cosmic ray station. And then this is the cosmic ray station. Oops, on the other side, right above me right there. That is the actual cosmic ray station on Mount Aragats that inspired the sort of lair where Anna is working with Molly. And it's also the lair that I talk about in the comic books that Molly draws.
Yes. So for our audience that hasn't yet read the book, can you describe the plot? Can you describe it? I don't want to say, because I don't want to say the wrong thing and blow it. So can you tell us what?
Yeah, so Atomic Anna is about 3 generations of women. It's a grandmother, mother, and daughter who work together to stop the Chernobyl disaster. And really, it's about saving their family. And so the book is really about love and relationships and family. And of course, there's some science and there is a time machine, but it's really about this generational saga going from early 1900s and taking us through the 1990s. So it's almost a 100-year sweep of 3 generations of this family. And so it ends up, and it also begins on Mount Aragats, where they are working on their time machine with these crazy computers.
I love that you saw these photos and they inspired this story.
Well, it's so crazy. I mean, a cosmic ray station, it's real. They're real.
I honestly, are cosmic rays real thing? Like
Yes.
when I heard that, I was like, I thought that was like a Star Trek episode. Like I didn't realize that was a real thing.
Oh, it's real. It's real. Studying energy coming from the universe through our atmosphere and like what makes it to Earth or as high up as we can go, right, to catch it. And yeah, they're real scientific stations.
But no one else except for you would look at those photos and think, I have a story. I have. And I'm so curious, like, how do you make that transition from seeing a photo to this book? Like, how do you, as a writer, interpret that image and then translate it into a story? Did it all come to you at once? Was it the sort of evolution of all the different threads? Talk to us about that process.
So it definitely evolves. So when I was little, so Courtney was saying, right, she grew up with Trident, right? So when I was little, like my big moment, sadly, wasn't in a bookstore. It was really the news of Chernobyl melting down and the disaster. And it is just like ingrained in my head. I was a little kid. And I just remember this moment of this is a disaster that adults could have. This is a grown-up accident. And this is horrific. And just thinking of so many people were going to die, animals were going to die, the idea that the forest was going to be ruined, right, for a million years, like it was just mind blowing to me. So I've always been thinking about that disaster and was looking at photographs around 2016 and just looking at how it's such a freakishly haunted place now because it's an exclusion zone all around Chernobyl. Everything was shut down, right? This huge building has been put over it. I don't know, like it's just this crazy place and it's real. And I just thought something unreal about it. And I don't know, the two came together, the cosmic ray station and Chernobyl. And I just thought they interact with something otherworldly. And I came to the time machine and the story evolved.
Well, it sounds like you also were carrying the impact of that disaster inside of you for a long time, right? So it was also maybe like waiting for the right environment.
Yeah, I think all stories are, right? I mean, like all books, all writers, we have something inside of us, that we want to bring out and, put on the page.
Yeah. One of the things you do incredibly well in this book is keep the reader in the right place at all times. So we don't get lost. And the reason that that's notable is because you're talking about three different narrators. We're jumping through time. As you mentioned, we're going through 100 years during the story. And I felt very grounded throughout the story. I didn't feel like, wait, who is this? Where am I? And I have read different books that don't have a time travel element and get lost. And so I thought the fact that you were very successful in that was notable. And I wondered, how did you go about anchoring the reader and keeping the reader confident that you were holding space for them throughout the story?
What a well-worded question. And then holding space for them. Beautiful. So really, I think it came down to chapter titles. And that might sound crazy, but everyone will say, 3 years, 20 years until Molly dies on Mount Aragats, right? So continually counting down until Molly dies. So that's not a secret. From page 1, she's going to die. And so really, it's a matter of following her, right? Following each person to that journey. And so at first I was really, really precise and specific. And I was like, 3 years, 10 months, 6 days, 5 hours, 37 seconds, right? And my editor was like, that's a terrible idea. That's just too confusing and that's not going to work. So simplify. And so now it'll say, 3 months or 2 days until Molly dies, right? So that's really the through line that hopefully is what is grounding you as you read.
It's very effective. And I wondered, I have a question for you, for Courtney as well. When you read a book, I don't know about you, but sometimes I have an experience where the story for me takes a shape. Like the story, I don't know, like I can see the shape of the narrative. Doesn't happen always, but I felt with this book that there was a very specific shape to it. And I wondered if you thought about that when you read the book, when you wrote the book, like, do you see the arc of the story or does it have a specific narrative shape to you? Or is it just my like,
what do you think, Courtney?
No, I'm just curious what the shape is that you envision, because because it's the 3 generations, it's almost like it creates is it a triangle?
I like that.
Is it?
That's good. So I don't know, but I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I envisioned a shape when I read. I mean, I love that. I love that kind of visceral response to reading, which I think we all have. I feel like when you remember like the smells or what you were, I remember this potato chip I was eating when I read a certain book, certain things like that.
Yeah.
I definitely associate. But reading this one, I don't know if I envisioned a shape. I'm curious what shape it looked like for you though.
Well, Rachel, did you have a shape?
Yeah.
Not really, but I mean, I did see it as like maybe an arc, like we're sort of jumping forward in time, but
Right.
yeah. What did you see?
Well, I saw two different
Yeah,
things. I mean, very much that like the image of an atom, with all the
Uh-huh.
circles, because they
Yes.
all those circles are their own story, and yet they're all connected and influence one another. So I felt like that was one image that came to me. But then the other thing I thought about is that this book has a lot of very unique threads in it, right? So one is the mother-daughter bond. We've got time travel. We've got life under the Soviet regime, what it's like to be an immigrant, what it's like to be a second generation and a third generation, love, addiction, the need for connection, forgiveness, science, math, comics. I mean, there are so many threads. And so all of those things independently could be a story. And they also kind of just hang out by themselves. But when you put them all together, they make like this very beautiful tapestry, right? They make a picture. So that idea of like all of these threads coming together and making something greater.
I love
cool.
that.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you hear what other people see in your book.
Yeah.
I love it. I will tell you one image that I have had in my head since the very first day that I sat down to write this was I talk about the bears, and I have the bear at peace and the bear at war.
Yes.
And it's a necklace, and it's up, Molly draws it. It's up on their wall. That image, I don't know why, has always stuck with me. And I was like, the bears have to be in there. The bears.
I love that.
Yes.
I love it.
They're in there.
Awesome. Courtney, tell us about events at Trident. That's like not my best segue over, but let's make that a segue. Yeah. We know that bookstores, like one of the things we love so much about indie bookstores are the events that are put on. Any book lover loves the opportunity to meet an author, right? That they admire. It's like, I can tell you about all the times I've embarrassed myself fangirling over an author. So tell us about like all the years that you have been to Trident, been part of it. Has there been an event that has been like, oh, this was my favorite? Oh, or this was.
I mean, the Grub Street events have been my favorite. The Craft on Draft events that Grub Street puts on are some of the most vibrant, fun, and like, and they're really local, but like, it's just always a really great night. And those events, we used to be, what was it, once a year or twice a year? I don't remember.
No, I think it was, I thought we did them more often than that.
Did we do it more often?
We do like 4 a year?
Yeah, okay. They were frequent enough, but now that
not enough.
We haven't had it in a while. And those are, and also, those, I mean, Grub Street is a great organization in Boston. I don't know how much the listeners are familiar with it, but it's, there's a lot of classes and writing programs and great authors who come through there. And those authors who come to, like, who are speaking at those events and then coming as attendees too, it's always just a great community to be part of. I will say our events are extremely unique, I would say, for bookstores, because we take advantage of the fact that we have this big restaurant space upstairs. We do and we sell food and drink, so we do kind of offbeat events, I guess you could say. I mean, our trivia, which is, I know, not a unique one, but that's a big one we do once a week. We do this event with an organization called Skip This Small Talk, which people come, and it's literally just, it's like meeting friends, new friends, or maybe more, but it's really geared towards just meeting people. And I think, again, that speaks to what kind of space we have, where you can just come alone and come away with a friend kind of thing.
But it's like hanging out at a bar with books.
Yeah. I mean, but it's like intentional. And they put prompts on the TVs, like, of real, like, skipping the small talk, real questions. It's kind of like speed dating. You talk to people. And and it's like a bar, except you don't feel, I mean, our space, we have beer and wine, but we're not like a place you feel like you'll have to have an alcoholic drink, which is kind of nice for a lot of people, I think. We also do, I'm trying to think of other unique events. We do so many. It's been great to see them come back. That's the other piece of this. Like for 2 years, we didn't have any events, obviously. And now, I mean, we did a little virtual. It was kind of tough for us because it was just like we were spread so thin. And now getting in-person events back is just awesome. So, yeah.
Yes.
To our audience, if you have questions for Courtney or Rachel, please feel free to post them in the comments. Ooh, Joe and I both tried to do the same thing. There we go. And thank you for all the great things people are saying about Trident and about Rachel.
Yeah.
But was there an event that
one standout?
Your favorite,
or an author that you were starstruck
that you fangirled over?
Yeah,
man.
Come on, Courtney.
Well, I mean, I've definitely been. I mean, we did an event at the library, not in the store, with Neil Gaiman, and that was like kind of an experience because he's extremely professional and he knows exactly how he wants it to be run, which I appreciated because it was like he's run this show a million times. He doesn't need input from us, which is a good thing. It was great.
Yes.
He was extremely nice, and I'm a huge fan of his books. I try not to let the starstruck quality come out. I tend to try to be like blasé, which I barely pull off. I'm trying to think of other big, I mean, there's been so many, and again, it's been a few years, but generally, I mean, it's like, it doesn't need to be a big name author, it's like meeting authors and talking to them. And it's kind of like your people, no matter whether they're on the New York Times bestseller list or, a local author. It's like once you start talking to them, it's like this conversation. I mean, it's like your people. So you have a lot of commonality, and that's always fun to kind of, hang out and just chat,
Well, it sounds very much like that's what Trident's all about, right? Is this place where you can pick up your next great read, but you can also find community and you can feel it.
Yes, so exactly.
Rachel, another decision that you made with Atomic Anna was this very effective layering of tension, right? You're putting these characters in great moments of stress and uncertainty. And we have this time travel element where maybe they'll go back and change things, or maybe they'll try. And there's a ticking clock. And then there's this idea that the time travel is actually like bad for the human body. So there's all of these things happening that as a reader, I am just hooked to read the page. And I'm wondering, thank you, Gail. I'm wondering, when you begin your process of writing your novel, how do you approach, I want to create tension and hook my readers? Is it a conscious, I've got to make sure I do this? Is it more organic? We know that a lot of the people who watch are readers, and they would love to know sort of the secret sauce, like what goes on behind the curtain.
I mean, it really comes out in lots of layers, and it's very organic for me. I am a reader and a writer who loves plot. I love ideas and plot, and I struggle with, let's talk about the emotion, and like, let's slow down to like talk about your feelings. And some writers are so good at that, and I envy that. And, because I'm like, I can't spend 5 pages talking about feelings. I'll give you like 3 sentences, right? And so it's always with my editors, it's like, let's take back some of the plot and let's add some more feeling and some more emotion. So I love to keep moving. I love books that keep moving. I just love those. I love plot. So I keep putting it in there.
Excellent.
It's funny. It's similar to what, like in the store, in terms of, you were saying, like small decisions kind of make the whole, and it's hard to know. If you knew exactly what those small decisions were, you'd be able to hit it every time, but it builds up, and then, you create a beautiful book, or,
whatever. Exactly. Right. Like you try it one way, and then if it doesn't work, you try it another way. Right. And you sort of see what happens, but keep moving, just keep moving.
Right. Keep trying.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the other elements in the book is this whole idea that the Molly character is a comic book artist, and a very talented one. And I know that you've done a lot of work with comic artists who do you say comic book artists? Do you say artists who create comics?
I say all of it.
All of it. Okay.
Yes. I'm not an artist.
So I know below we've put links to your social media, and so we encourage people to go check them out, Rachel's Instagram feed and other places online, because you've been sharing a lot of these images. So
Yes.
explain to the audience, you hired artists to create the comics. Tell us about that.
Yes. So I finished Atomic Anna. And so the middle generation is Anna's daughter. Her name is Molly in America. That's her American name. And she's a comic book artist. And so whereas her mother is a scientist and her daughter is a mathematician, right? She sees the world in terms of light, picture, right? Color, pictures, drawing. So she really expresses herself through her art, and her family doesn't really understand. But she just keeps drawing, and she falls in love with comics. And it's the heart of the 70s, second wave feminism, which I'm a huge fan of. I think Kimberly's heard me like go off on this enough times now, but right. And women's comics with that movement was just at its height at this moment that Molly comes of age and is drawing these comics. So in the end, her comics are used as a way to communicate with the time machine. She leaves them for her daughter, right? She helps her mother remember things through them. So she's drawing as a way to communicate. So they are an intricate part of the story for all generations. And so when I finished Atomic Anna and, finished copy edits and was just sort of waiting, because there's this like awkward half a year where you're waiting for your book to come out, I just started thinking, well, what if I could draw those comics or get someone to do it? And I love debut authors, as you guys know, because I run a debut author show. And I thought, what if I could get some new artists, right? Give them some exposure and find some women, because my book is about 3 strong women and I need a woman to draw these comic books. And so I went out and I hooked up with Kelly Sue DeConnick, who's like the matriarch or the like big woman in comics right now. And she runs a project called Visible Women to get more women in comics hired. And she helped me find some pretty, brand new artists out there. And I found these 2 women, Emily Ree and Angela Wu, who have been drawing what I dreamt up and imagined. And I've been sharing them. And it's been so much fun. Such a fun project that I didn't even anticipate. It's just been very organic. And I've loved working with them and bringing, so it's Atomic Anna, Mighty Minerva, and Rocket Reza, and bringing them into life.
That's awesome.
There are so many books. Like I think of how my daughter has like the graphic novel version of Anne of Green Gables, right? Like there are so many books that they've turned into graphic novels. Is it a dream of yours to do like a companion book that's the Atomic Anna comics?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. I can't believe how much people are loving the comics that Emily and Angela are drawing. Like people love it. So yeah, why not? I mean, it's just really fun, and it's a great way to reach people. There's a huge audience of people that read books, with comics in them or graphic novels. So yeah.
My kids went through a phase when all they read were graphic novels, and I was sort of alarmed because I didn't grow up with that. But they've advanced so much beyond just like a superhero. They're like really detailed plots. They're like
they're all the rage for sure.
They are. Yeah. They're so clever to build that in this book. I just love that idea. I love that the Molly character expresses herself through art. It's such an interesting contrast to the other generations that are so science and math focused.
I love the idea. And I find it so interesting to think about how we all see the world in such different ways. Right. And so I really wanted to show 3 characters that understand the physical world around them in different ways. And, I just really wanted to explore that.
And art and science are kind of the flip side of the same coin a lot of times, I think.
Yes,
so
exactly. Yes, exactly.
Playing that out through generations makes so much sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously we want everyone to go pick up Atomic Anna from Trident. We'll put the link below. But we know our audience always wants to know what the 2 of you are reading as well. So Rachel, having written these 2 wonderful books, what is on your bedside table? What are you looking? What do you read before you fall asleep? And Courtney, what's next on your read list? Or what have you read?
Take it away first, Rachel.
I mean, I'm dying to know what you're reading, Courtney and Kimberly.
I try to think of. I'm trying to think of things that are out now, because I do tend to read things that are not out for a while. But something that just came out last week that I enjoyed. I'll preface this by saying I have a 3-year-old and I'm super pregnant right now, so my sort of reading tendency has gotten a lot more. I'm more. I usually like literary fiction, but I'm kind of looking at things that are more plot oriented, like Atomic Anna, like just to keep me engaged. I can't just go straight like literary kind of stuff. So one book I really liked recently was Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie
Garmus.
Yeah, Bonnie Garmus. Again, the science angle.
Yes.
And it's about a woman who it's set in the 50s. She's a chemist, and she's also beautiful. Okay. And she is basically, it's kind of like there's this, it's a little bit satirical. There's this boys club that she can't advance in her field. So she ends up being on a cooking show and getting success through that. But meanwhile, she's, runs a lab out of her kitchen, and it's quirky, it's fun, it's easy. And it's, a lot of the themes of the boys club kind of world, even though they're exaggerated, you can certainly apply them to today. There's elements you're like, yeah, that still happens. So that was really good. Another one that just came out that I loved, I'm a huge fan of Emily St. John Mandel, similar with the time travel stuff. And I thought that was an interesting connection with like the body effects of time travel, which I imagine is, it makes sense, if you're time traveling. So that book has got some time travel in it. And if you've read Station 11 or The Glass Hotel, there's connections and Easter eggs and all that. In her new one, The Sea of Tranquility. So I loved that one. And I just finished listening to the new book by David Sedaris. He needs no extra publicity, but his new book of essays comes out, I think, next week. And that's just an easy thing for me to listen to with a 3-year-old trying to get my attention. So he's funny. And he has an essay about the feeling of meeting authors when he was a young person and he wasn't a famous author yet, and how he tries to give each person coming up to him at a signing kind of what he would have wanted as a event attendee. And so he says he throws random questions at people. Like, I can't think of an example. He's very quirky, so I'm sure it was, some awkward, weird question, but he engages with people in a way that I think is really great for authors to do who are so famous like him and otherwise, so those are 3 that are recently out or soon to be out that I'm reading or I read.
Great. I have to say, my pub day last Tuesday was like the biggest pub day of the century.
There was a lot of memes in the bookstore world, a lot of Instagrams, like people like falling under piles of books and big forts of books. I mean, I think that was the biggest pub day I've like ever seen. And Ocean Wrongs. I mean, there was like his book of poetry came out that week. There was just
Douglas
a lot.
Stewart. Oh my God. Like every major author and Atomic Anna came out.
Well, I mean, it's a good date because it's right before the summer reading kind of boom. And it's sort of like I think like, it's a lot of faith of the publisher putting your book out then to kind of be able to elbow out those other guys and compete. And, I think it's generally not a bad thing to have such good company on your pub date.
Yes. It's pretty amazing.
It was.
Yeah. Oh, one more book I just want to shout out because it's from a fellow Grub Street alum, which is Annie Hartnett's new book, Unlikely Animals, which came out this past Tuesday. And she's a friend of mine too. So and that's kind of a quirky story set in New Hampshire of a girl coming home like kind of with her tail between her legs, and her family's kind of in a messy state, and her best friend is missing. And it's just, it's really a quirky, fun, easy to read, great plot, perfect summer read or spring read. Yeah.
Great. Yes. Thank you. Rachel, what are you reading?
Okay. So this book just came out, Woman on Fire. Lisa Barr. I know, this was so good. And she is also a friend of mine. This book is about Nazi art theft. And then it's the 3 generations later, recovering the art and sort of recovering some of the past that was lost. It's brilliant. And she actually became a New York Times bestseller. That was like a lifelong dream for her. That was amazing without being in a major book club or anything. And then a book that I'm reading now that is coming out soon that I'm loving, More Than You'll Ever Know.
Yes, we have Katie on the show in June.
Oh, amazing. She's coming on my show too. Yay! So I'm really excited about her and this book. She just seems lovely. I've never met her yet, but she just, seems amazing in every interaction that I've had with both of these women. So
Yes.
go out and buy Woman on Fire or get ready for More Than You'll Ever Know.
Yes, we'll put links below to buy or pre-order from Trident.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for those recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, I wanted to ask you a question about, look at me opening the book. I'm going to read to you. I'm going to mispronounce this, so I apologize in advance. Tell us what Pirkei Avot.
Mm-hmm.
How bad did I say it?
Pirkei Avot. It's fine. It's good.
So tell us what that is and how it's involved, like how it's incorporated into the book. Because I found it something that was I found myself really interested in about that. I Googled it afterward. I'm like, I want to know more. Yeah.
Right. Wow. Okay. So Pirkei Avot is it's a very ancient Jewish text. It's called Chapters of the Fathers. And it's basically a bunch of sort of teachers and sayings and ideas around ethics and conversations around what is the right thing to do. So some of the more famous sayings that come from there, or questions that come from there are, if not now, when? If not me, then who? And I use it as a way to frame the book because this book starts with the Chernobyl disaster, and it's about a family trying to build a time machine. And I argue that both of those are weapons, and that science can be weaponized. And yes, science can do a lot of good. I love science. I do. I love technology, but I also think that it has a lot of things that can, unforeseen consequences that can come from science and technology. And so what I'm really using Pirkei Avot for in the book is to ask these questions of, just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. And what if we start all science with ethics? So before I build this machine, what if we spend time thinking about what it might do, how it might go wrong, how the government who's funding it might use it? Even if I think this is the coolest science in the world, right? So even if I want to go back and stop Chernobyl now, right? Decades later, what am I actually doing? Well, I argue it's a weapon, because you would go back and let's say two scientists met while they were, cleaning up Chernobyl. They have a family and they have generations and generations after them. You go back and stop Chernobyl, you're erasing that entire family. You're erasing lives, right? And no one would even know that it had happened. So in a sense, that's a weapon. So yes, it seems easy to say, of course we should stop Chernobyl, but should we? Should we actually do that? Who are we to decide that it's actually a good thing to go back and change what's happened? And so that's what I, ask in the book. And that's why Pirkei Avot comes in. I studied ethics and ethical philosophy at Harvard as an undergrad. And I spent a lot of time on these questions. And so thank you for asking about that text. And it's in there. And I spent a lot of time translating them also. So
it was very inspiring to read that and to have that context. So I appreciate that.
I love that you Googled it. That's awesome.
And also your explanation makes me think of that very famous Ray Bradbury story, that Sound of Thunder, with the butterfly effect. And that sort of idea that just because you can do something, should you do it? Right. And what happens when you make a mistake? You can change a lot of things.
I mean, even with our kids, we teach that all the time, right? Yeah. Yes, you could push your brother over, but should you? Right? Like, what are you actually going to gain from that?
My son would say, yes, I should push my sister over.
Right. Exactly. Right. Right. But is it so obvious? I don't know.
Right.
Well, maybe you could teach them that.
Yeah. Thank you for that explanation. We're coming to the end of our time, which makes me very sad.
Oh my God, it was so much fun. It just flew.
No, it's so fast. Like, whoa. Yeah.
Courtney, our last question is always for the bookseller.
Okay.
And are you ready? Here we go.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Please finish this sentence for us.
Okay.
Running a successful bookstore is part hard work, part luck, and part what else?
Ooh, I would say creativity.
Ooh.
Creativity. Yeah.
Excellent. We've had all the answers you can imagine.
Yeah. I'd be curious what other people say. I mean, that's just the first word that came to my mind.
Yeah. But you were talking about how you have to try things, right? And be able to try things and change.
Well, I think, it's just, you keep doing new things. And I mean, obviously you mentioned I'm a second generation. My parents started this business. So there was a lot established, and kind of ingrained, but there's a lot that can be changed too. So I find the most fun for me is the change, and the trying. And and certainly some of my bad ideas have come about, but some good ideas too. So,
but you have to fall down and fail and have bad ideas to get to good ones.
Yeah,
it's true.
I love it. Oh my God, I love Trident.
Oh, thank you
Me
guys.
too.
This has been so fun.
I love this book too. Speaking of creativity.
Yes.
To our audience, thank you for being here today. Please go read Atomic Anna. Please go buy it from Trident. If you're in the Boston area, please go to Trident, grab a coffee, wander the lovely aisles, and buy many, many books. And if you like today's show, please, we hope you did, please join us next week. We'll be back again on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time with another interview. Please subscribe to Mighty Blazes page on Facebook so you can get notified about all of our events, or hop over to our website, amightyblaze.com, where we have a newsletter that goes out Monday of every week that gives you the rundown of all of our interviews. And again, thank you to Rachel. Thank you to Courtney. Really.
Thank you to Kimberly and Joe, who have an amazing show and sell so many books and support so many indie bookstores. You guys are truly amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, join us back here next week for another episode of Authors Love Bookstores. Until then, be well and keep reading. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Kimberly.